we're going to bring in now Professor Stephen Caliendo from North Central College to talk about a Florida representative who has now been indicted on charges that accuse her of stealing $5 million in federal disaster funds. Professor Caliendo, the House Ethics Committee seems to work overtime.
Hey, these comic books are getting expensive. You got to do what you need to do.
It's pretty wild here.
Yeah.
They're accusing her of funneling it into her campaign in 2021 for contributions.
Yeah, right. It was a special election down in Florida. It was a special election, and that's where the accusations of improper handling of campaign funds comes in. But it's really a COVID era issue. The accusation is that money came in to a company, a health company that she and her husband owned, and they overpaid. That is, the government overpaid, gave more than was asked for, more than was needed. It's hard to remember what things were like at the time of COVID. Money was flying around. We were trying to keep everybody safe, and instead of returning it, the accusation is from the feds is that they laundered the money and that a significant portion of that money went into her campaign funds. She denies it. She says it's not true. She says she's cooperating throughout. However, as is always the case when a member of Congress is indicted, what a terrible sentence. But when a member of Congress is indicted, the rules say that you have to step down from leadership positions. And so she stepped down. She was on a Foreign Affairs subcommittee, and she's since stepped down from that position while these proceedings go forward.
Yeah, certainly not the first time that we've heard of someone in the House having to go through an investigation with the House Ethics Committee. I don't think it's lost on anyone, especially in her fight back against these, which she's got a big fight on her hands, that she is a Democrat in a red state. And I'm sure she's at least using that as a part of her fight, even if this looks clear as day.
Yeah, it always looks clear as day when the prosecution's presenting it because there is no there's not a trial, right? And even in front of a grand jury, it's simply prosecutors presenting to citizens what their case is. And so an indictment is not a sign of guilt. An indictment is a sign that there's enough evidence to move forward with an accusation of guilt. So she will be able to mount a defense. She hasn't done very much of that publicly other than denying the accusations and saying that she didn't do it. But right, I mean, I think, from what we can see, nobody would argue that it was an inappropriate use of funds if that's what happened. But the only way we know what happened right now is from the government's perspective. And so we're going to have to wait to hear more.
Yeah. And so this is the government, kind of launching this investigation at her. I want to flip things here because, of course, the other ethics investigation, if you will, was from within the Democratic Party for U.S. Congressman Chuy Garcia right here from our area. What were your thoughts on his reprimand?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Democrats had to do that. And I don't mean had to, meaning that there was some external force, but I mean, the Democrats are holding themselves up as the more small d Democratic politicians moving around the atmosphere in these Trump years. They have bemoaned a number of policies by the Trump administration, decisions by the Trump administration that they saw as not being consistent with the framers' principles, with our Constitution, with our laws. And so when Chuy Garcia sort of pulled this trick, and he may not characterize it that way, but I think it's tough to argue otherwise, that he didn't announce he was retiring until the very last minute, and the only person who seemed to know was his staffer. I think it was incumbent upon the Democrats to make a clear statement and issue a reprimand.
Yeah, and then there's the ethics investigation into Stacey Plaskett for connections to now disgraced sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
Right, and the accusation there, Anita, of course, is that there was text communication during a congressional hearing at one point where she was soliciting information from Jeffrey Epstein. Nothing about sex particularly, but the fact that she was communicating with him and getting information that she could then use in a question for a witness. Any connection with Jeffrey Epstein is quite toxic. And again, as the Democrats are clamoring to release all the Epstein files and to hold anybody accountable, it's really a bad look for them to have one of their members have any kind of a history. And so, again, there's going to have to be an investigation about exactly how much was involved here. But it's just a bad look. It's a bad look, and that's important.
And so I ask that because it's all going on at a time when, there's a question as to what we're going to find in the Epstein files. There's a question as to whether it would implicate, who it would implicate. But of course, the president, whose name came up in some of the previous documents that have been released, is saying this could hurt the Democrats more than me.
He's certainly hoping that, but I don't think that he believed that until a couple of days ago, or if he did, he wasn't acting like that was the case. Remember, it was Republicans in the White House that have been stonewalling the release of files. Arguments could be made that Biden administration could have done more about it, even though Ghislaine Maxwell was in the process of her legal proceedings at the time. There may have been things that they could have done as well. So I think there's reasonable people are pointing fingers in both directions to say who's really in there. The answer might be everybody. The answer might be nobody. I mean, we know somebody's in there. We don't know how, to the extent to which it's current elected officials. But there's a lot of folks at different points in time that didn't want that information to be released. And President Trump has since come around, encouraged all the House Republicans to vote for it, and they all did except for one. The Senate quickly passed it, and the bill is on the president's desk. And so he's going to have a decision to make, but all indications are that he's going to sign it. But then the question is, what does the rollout look like? It's not like there's just going to be, a truck that pulls up with a bunch of boxes in it, and they're going to set it out for people to look at. There's going to have to be careful redactions of victim names. And then there's going to have to be some logistics as well. So the delay could go on for some time. And I think both parties got a lot of political cover this week by saying that they were on the side of transparency.
And then there's the comments that the president made about Democrats conducting an act of sedition that's punishable by death.
Yeah, that was a big one. I just put a video on my social media about that because I waited about 24 hours because I wanted to hear what folks were saying about it. And I think a lot of things can be true at once. So at once, I will tell you that it's completely unreasonable and wrong for a president of the United States to, first of all, consider your critics to be treasonous. And this isn't new. This isn't something that just happened yesterday. President Trump has said this on and on. Well, members of the media are enemies of the people. He doesn't understand that healthy criticism is part of the democratic process. He believes that anybody that opposes him is treasonous. So that's problematic. And then the next level was, of course, he called for their execution. That's problematic. On the other hand, Republican or Democrats who are defending the video and saying, well, they weren't just saying. At the beginning of the video, they said, this administration has issued unlawful acts. It's your responsibility as members of the intelligence community or the military to disregard those. So it wasn't in the abstract. They were actually saying this administration's doing it. The other part of it is, though, that there's argument that that's insulting to the troops. And to the intelligence community. They know, they take an oath of office. They know not only do they have to disobey unlawful activities, they need to report that, because if they obey an unlawful act, they can be held responsible. That's what the Nuremberg trials were about, right? You can't just say, well, I was following orders if it's something that's illegal or unconstitutional. And so they have a responsibility there too. So the eight Democrats that sort of put that video out really put themselves out on a limb. And despite what we've talked about, you and I, since Charlie Kirk's assassination, about toning down political rhetoric, President Trump certainly heeded it, not only from what he said, but by amplifying other social media posts that called for execution of those members.
Yeah, ethics is a little word that goes a long way on both sides of the aisle. Thank you so much, Dr. Caliendo. We appreciate you as always.
It's always good to see you. Thanks for having me on.
Yep, have a great weekend.